Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond.
Welcome, everybody, to the State of Freedom. It's Thursday, August 7th at 10 o'clock in the morning, Central Time. I'm Danielle. I'm joined by my partner in truth, Chris Alexander. We are coming to you live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. We are joined today by a very special guest, Sean Taylor. You might remember the story that broke last year. He's the now retired Deputy Chief of Police from Millersville, Tennessee, whose department uncovered a transnational criminal conspiracy related to politicians and a whole host of corruption. I will let him get into that himself before I botch it. But before we do that, and before we get into the scripture of the day, let's take a quick listen to an advertisement. Let's see. The secret to losing weight 2 times faster has gone viral. See the transformations hundreds of thousands of men, women, and teens are experiencing around the world with the Slenderize drops. These homeopathic hormone-balancing drops are proven to control appetite, support thyroid function, improve energy, boost mood, and increase metabolic rate. To learn more about the drops or other incredible natural wellness and lifestyle products, email me at danielle@freedomstate.us or visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. And let me bring in Sean because he's going to want to listen to the scripture of the day, too. Let's see. All right. I'm trying to get this layout correct, so y'all just bear with me.
Yeah, this is a new format, but it's going to be it's going to serve us well.
All right. Well, let me get into the scripture of the day before we talk about all kinds of political corruption. The scripture today is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 11 through 12, and it says, "Aspire to lead a calm and peaceful life as you mind your own business and earn your living just as we've taught you. By doing this, you will live an honorable life, influencing others and commanding respect of even the unbelievers. Then you'll be in need of nothing and dependent on others." And I love that verse, and I think that's a verse that we all aspire to, but the context of this passage is important. If you read the chapter, you'll see that it was clearly an instruction by Paul to the Thessalonians not to be meddling in the affairs and the lives of other people. He was calling them to lives of purity and not to be gossips. But this passage is often taken out of context and used by Christians as an excuse for looking the other way and not getting involved in politics or community matters that impact their families. And we cannot lead a calm and peaceful life if everything around us is in moral decay and insecurity. And I know our viewers are ones who understand this, agree with this, and are active in their communities and aware of what's taking place in the world. But I felt that we needed a reminder that the call of the Lord for those who believe is to be salt and light, to influence, to purify, and to expose. It is not to sit in our pews and pray that Jesus just takes us all out of this mess. He called us to occupy until he comes, and that requires us to be involved and to fight in this spiritual war that's raging all around us.
Danielle, do you know someone else who understands the importance of not looking the other way when he sees things that are wrong and when he sees corruption? Is our guest, Sean Taylor, who just, I'm blown away by the story. I know, the story is, it's from 2024, but it's ongoing. And I just can't wait to get into this today. Sean, thank you so much for joining us today.
I appreciate y'all taking the time and having me on so we can get the word out to the public. The public needs to understand what's happening behind the scenes, how the larger picture affects the smaller picture, and it's basically a pyramid. They're using your local to build up your national. and it's up to the individual people uh, to bring accountability and demand accountability.
Yeah.
It's a lot about education.
Yeah. So to frame this out a bit, Sean, as Assistant Chief of Police of the Millersville Police Department in Tennessee, 2024, your department is investigating large scale, broad based corruption. And we're going to let you get into that a little bit. How is it that your department got involved in this?
So we had some citizens come to us regarding some election issues. We had a individual who was who was on the commission there that when she ran for office, she didn't actually live within the city or live where she stated that she lived on her voter registration, and also it's the same address that she utilized to put on her paperwork when she ran for office. And we knew the home wasn't there because we actually have the documentation from the city on the schedule of the actual permits and the different times that the inspector came out to inspect the location. And so we had documented 100% proof that that had happened, and two individuals or three individuals had gone to the local district attorney and turned it over to him. And basically, he threatened one of those individuals and told him basically he needed to mind his own business. And when we looked at that, we found that this wasn't the first time that this has happened in that county. And so when we started looking at the totality of the circumstances, we found a lot more problems there than what we had ever anticipated. And so we had started the investigation, ended up finding out that it went into major corruption with one of the former mayors and him actually selling property to the city commissioner who had illegally obtained office. And he was selling city property that was supposed to be used for emergency services to be able to enter and exit a subdivision that only had one entrance in case something happened. And that commissioner ended up using that mayor as a developer of the property. So you had all of this quick pro quo that was going back and forth. And the more we brought it up, the more pushback we got from this district attorney. And this district attorney's got a spotted past, anyways. He had basically framed two gentlemen for first degree murder that had connections to a drug cartel there locally that we believe the DA was helping cover up. We know he's been very light sentenced on sexual assault crimes involving local political figures and their families and stuff like that. So that's really where it started locally. We had no idea that it tied into a national case that we had been working since 2012.
Since 2012.
Yes, ma'am.
Holy smokes. Do you want to get into that a little bit, Sean?
Well, it's a case where we ended up receiving intel on about $1 million load of narcotics that had come across the border because we had open borders during that time frame with the Obama and all that. And $1 million load of narcotics was taken down with a trucking company out of West Tennessee that had major ties to the White House. And this case had been opened up once previously before us, and the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation started to investigate it. And Al Gore actually called and spoke to the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and shut that investigation down because it had to do with Al Gore's uncle, who was Judge Whit LaFawn down there in that area. And then that ended up going into several other judges and individuals that were tied into banking and trucking and things of that nature. And they had been investigated previously under the Clinton administration and all that for human trafficking, human smuggling, and narcotics trafficking. And basically, this case was done away with until we opened it back up in 2012 and took down the $1 million load of narcotics. And so that's where it originated from. And what we didn't know is the local political PAC that basically financed the three people that ran against us there in the city of Millersville in 2024 were being financed by individuals that had ties directly to this drug trafficking organization.
What do you mean run against you?
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
What's the question?
You said run against you. Run against who?
So we had a city election in 2024, And basically, we had 3 seats that were up. So whoever won those 3 seats would basically take control of the city. So the commissioner that we were investigating, her and her husband, she got 3 individuals to run and brought in a political PAC called the Best of Tennessee PAC, which is an anti-MAGA, anti-Trump PAC. And the individuals on this board of the Best of Tennessee PAC are tied. Some of them are tied directly to the individuals that we had taken the load of narcotics off of.
Wow.
And that trucking company, the people that own it, were making donations to one of the gentlemen that's a board member for him running for governor. We also have bank fraud that tied into this, a $9 million bank fraud with these individuals, and some of the individuals who were tied into the bank fraud as the money laundering for this human and drug trafficking organization. Some of those individuals are tied directly to individuals with this PAC as well. We found out that the local reporter who was coming after us, Phil Williams, who is a liberal progressive, he's tied to Midas Touch Media with the Measles brothers and Reed Garrett Hoffman and all of that. And what we found out is Phil Williams, the local news commentator, the attorney that had been working for years for his news station, was also tied to this political PAC. And so we have numerous connections, as well as one of the city commissioner we were investigating. She and her husband were in business with the founder of the political PAC's father. So we
Yeah.
had all of these connections between them to keep this nefarious activity going on.
So, Sean, this is obviously horrible stuff that you're talking about here. I mean, it sounds like just gross political corruption. There's no question about that. But it sounds like it's largely, based on what you're saying so far, it's largely confined to your county in Tennessee. How is how does this have national implications? I'm sure you're probably going to get to that.
So what we have found is, let's take for instance this political PAC, the Best of Tennessee PAC. What they're doing is they're basically taking their cues on how to operate from places like Democracy Forward, which of course is an anti-MAGA, anti-Trump PAC. Which what they want to do is they want to bring the news media in to create the propaganda, and then do their education of the citizens to try to make people look bad and attack their character. That way they can't bring the case or bring the information forward. They won't be believed because they're utilizing propaganda. The next thing that they use is they use lawfare, where they file lawsuits, civil lawsuits against individuals to try to bleed them so that they don't have any money to be able to fight anything that's coming after them.
Yeah, slap suits. Yeah.
Exactly. And then on top of that, with their political connections, because of course what they're doing, they're providing political PAC money to their people, and then the people that are elected can go to people like the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and demand that they do something about this. And of course, what's TBI going to do? TBI is going to do like it always has, and they're going to fold to the political pressure versus standing up and saying no, we're going to do what's right. And we know that for a fact because it happened once before on this case previously, when Al Gore called and had this case shut down once before. So
Hmm.
when it goes into the national side, what we end up finding is that the people who are part of this PAC, the people that are on the board and the founder, go into major things that tie into things like the LCR group, which is the ones who build the hotels for the Pritzkers, who
Hmm.
of course have been looked at for the Epstein Island stuff and things of that nature. It ties into Bill Gates, who has, I believe it's Red Roof Inns, and they build all of that for him. And the Pritzkers and Bill Gates are a part of another system called Navic Systems, which is owned by another high-ranking member of Microsoft. And that gentleman owns a company called Kind, which is Kids in Need of Defense, who I believe was brought up before Congress several years ago regarding child trafficking because they're moving unaccompanied minors around the world. So,
Hmm.
what do we call that? That is called human trafficking. Okay. And who's tied to that? The Pritzkers. And of course, who do we have again? Reed Garrett Hoffman. So we
Wow.
have this political pack here that's supposed to be this, this bipartisan pack. They're going to bring, everybody back together and get unity. Where in reality, what they're trying to do is they're trying to attack the individuals who are bringing the honesty and the cases forward with integrity. They're attacking them to make them look bad, which is us. They're trying to make us look bad, attack our integrity by using their political pull with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation to serve search warrants on us to take all of our data
And
so
that's
that
what
we can't.
happened, and that's what happened, and you were in the process of investigating all of this corruption
Yes, sir.
when, not only the Millersville Police Department was raided by TBI, but also your home. Tell us about that.
So, and they had started the investigation, they said in May of 24, but we have knowledge that it was previously started than that. And in May of 24, they used a child trafficking op that we did with Craig Sawyer and his team to try to attack us in the media. And it's funny because it was really only the one news show and only the one reporter, Phil Williams, who was attacking us, saying that we had botched it and all of this stuff. Well, then the TBI said that they opened their investigation on me for official misconduct and for altering government records and things like that. Well, no, I don't think so because we ran everything past not only the city attorney, but we also ran everything past the Department of Commerce and Insurance, who we were actively meeting with. We were also had meetings via video meetings and emails with the court system here, which controls the flow of information for different software that the law enforcement uses because we were investigating the corruption there within the city. And that was also tied to the police department that we were trying to clean up because they were selling police commission cards, fake police commission cards to people for anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 to make them look like they were police officers so they could go to downtown Nashville and direct traffic, making $35 to $40 an hour for another guy who worked at the police department who owned a security company. And so we found all of this corruption that was tied in to the city, and we were investigating that. But we were in contact with everybody. We'd actually reached out to the TBI as well, requesting their assistance on this. And when we contacted the administrative office of the courts, they commended us on the investigation we were doing. We asked to create a task force, and the administrative office of the court said absolutely, and sent a email with myself, the head of the Department of Commerce and Insurance, and to the TBI requesting task force, and TBI never responded. When you're jumping through the hoops you're supposed to. We went to the head of the stream, went to the highest people we know to, um, you know, make sure we were doing things correctly. And the district, we even asked for a special prosecutor pro temp from the state attorney general, and he denied it. We have all the documentation for this. So when you have to do your due diligence, you have to jump through every hoop that there is. So we did all of that, and the next thing we know, they served the search warrants on us and took all of our findings. Now the funny thing is when we ran the reports and did everything, the TBI were the ones who were running the reports and providing them to us, which means they had no reason to serve a search warrant. They already had all the information
You're
because
saying
they're
that
the
the
ones
the
who found it.
evidence that you had, or at least a large part of the evidence that you had, originated with the TBI
That
and
is
was sent
correct.
to you.
They were the originator of it. So therefore they had access to it. Therefore there was no reason to serve a search warrant because they already had it. Now,
Why can't they pick up the phone, Sean, and call you? I mean, your fellow law enforcement agencies, and say,
all they
"Look,
had all they had to do was answer the emails. They had been sent several emails, not only by me, but also from the administrative office of the courts. Answer your email. We were trying to get them involved, but no. But what we found out is that several of the members of the TBI that are coming after us are extremely close friends with the people that we were investigating.
Well, that checks out.
What we also found out on top of that is the director of the TBI, who was appointed by now former Governor Bill Haslam, was very possibly brought in to cover up the rebate scheme that the Haslams had through their company called Flying J and Pilot Truck Stops, because they were being investigated by the FBI. And it's awfully funny that they went to their best friend, Bob Corker, who went to Obama. And basically, it looks like Obama and he made a deal on the side to shut the investigation down into his best friends, the Haslams. So they were kind of dropped out of the investigation. And a new U.S. attorney for East Tennessee was brought in, which was also one of the Haslams and Bob Corker's good friends. They were all fraternity brothers at the University of Tennessee. And all of a sudden, there was no investigation further on the Haslams. That investigation goes away, but it could have stayed alive at the state level. But Bill Haslam brought in the Knoxville chief of police and brought him in. So we're starting to wonder if this has national security implications and a cover up of a major, hundreds of millions of dollar crime that the former governor is involved in. And, and it's funny because I had actually sent an email. I'd been talking with Bob Corker back in around 2000, I don't know, 13 or 14. I've still got the email where he called me and I gave him the information about drug money ending up in political donations, especially with the gentleman I was talking about that's part of that political pack that came after us. And 37 days later, after I provided Bob Corker and his staff, Brent Gerald's, I believe it's, or Brent Wilds, his chief of staff, the email with the documentation, 37 days later, Bob Corker retires.
Hmm. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Now, Sean, would you talk to us a little bit about the scope of this investigation? Because it seems to have at some point started really mushrooming out. And you've mentioned the Pritzkers, Bill Gates, Obama, but the net is even seems to be much wider than that and has a lot of other organizations involved in it. What kind of things are involved in this? I remember you
So,
talking about mortgage fraud and some other, maybe Act Blue as well.
yeah. So what we found is between 2005 and now, we've had about a 30% increase in NGOs and nonprofits around the United States. And a lot of these are your social justice movements where they're pushing their thoughts on us. This is basically propaganda that they're pushing. We can let transgender men into the girls' bathroom. It's all of these programs, Antifa, Black Lives Matter, all of that, and all of these little nonprofits that they've put together. And these nonprofits, basically, what that does is it creates little cells in key areas around the United States that they want to create discord in, to cause disruption in. And so what's happening is these nonprofits, a lot of them are using the Act Blue Technical Services (ATS), which was started in 2005 to take in a large amount of donations, but the donations were in small amounts. And the reason they did that is because they were retaining the donor data. And they said that it was because they wanted to make it so that people could donate more often, easier, so they just retain the data. Of course, what we have found out now is that is basically the Rolodex for their smurfing program, right? So what we've located is a lot of the people that are the founders and or board members of these nonprofits that are directly affiliated and do business with Act Blue. A lot of these individuals have what we call magic mortgages, where their home will sell on a day for, let's say, 438,000, but within minutes to hours later, it'll sell for 438 million, and it won't show a mortgage company. And so what that tells us is that it is a hard money loan. And we're also finding that this ties into foreign banks, U.S. banks, um, and the data has been hidden. And we know that they've used the property assessors in these counties to help hide the information. And it's one of the reasons that the property appraisal and the property assessments right now for taxes is so askew. A lot of these counties, the people are trying to pay their taxes, and all of a sudden it went up $2,500, but there was no property tax increase. It's because all of a sudden you had a $480 million loan come in, or on a home that was only 480,000.
Wow.
So we're finding that across the board, and we found it so much that we know it's not a Scrivener's error. We know that it's not somebody that's just had a typo, and we've gone as far as pulling deeds. We've pulled the tax transactions. And we've also pulled the Alta Loan mortgage insurance document, and we'll find that it's three different sets of numbers on three different documents.
Wow.
And this is outside of Tennessee. This goes far beyond Tennessee's borders.
This is nationwide. This is nationwide,
And
especially in your red states. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to find key counties that have a lot of your voting, that control a lot of your vote because of the size of the county and the population. And what they're doing is they're going into these key counties, and a lot of times these counties that are your Christian patriot based counties, they're going to vote red. So what they do, those people have lived there for generations. So they'll go in there and they'll start building a subdivision, or there'll be a subdivision built, and you'll have these investment companies come in, and the investment company will buy, let's say, 10 homes on one street, and they'll pay $100,000 for each house, and they'll pay cash. So that's $1 million investment. So then they'll find five, let's say 10 more homes on another street in that subdivision. They'll pay $100,000 cash for each home. So that's another $1 million investment. So that's a $2 million investment, right? So what they do then is in between those two streets, they'll find two more homes that are for sale. And instead of paying $100,000, they'll pay $200,000 for those homes, which is artificially inflating the price of the 20 previously purchased homes by double. So now your $2 million investment is a $4 million investment. And then they are obtaining these fraudulent mortgages by bundling it together with other homes in other states, and then getting these fraudulent mortgages. Well, the problem is we found Toronto Dominion Bank was hit with a $3.1 billion fine around November of last year. They were hit with that fine because they were laundering cartel money and money from the CCP. So that's money that they were making cash deposits into Toronto Dominion Bank. Toronto Dominion was not reporting this to FinCEN and reporting that they were depositing. They had one customer depositing up to $1 million a day. And I think it was up to 470 million is what he deposited that year. And it's hundreds of millions of dollars and billions of dollars that were being deposited that were not being documented. So that money is in the bank, and what that loan does, that mortgage does, is it covers that money in the bank, and it basically cleans that money because it goes out in a mortgage.
and it's pricing people out of their homes as well.
That is correct. It's driving the prices up so that the generational family can no longer afford to live there. The kids coming back from college wanting to raise their family in their hometown cannot do that because they can't afford the price that the homes have gone up to. So what it's doing is it's pushing these people out, these generational families out, and it's causing a geopolitical shift. And they're bringing in a lot of the illegals. They're bringing in a lot of the people that they're forcing out of places like Oregon, Washington, California, and places like that that people can't afford to live there anymore. And the reason that they keep driving the prices up out there is to drive the people out of California and send them to places like Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana. And that's why you see a lot of these big companies moving to these states. And all of a sudden, they'll make a deal with somebody like the mayor of Nashville and say, hey, we're going to bring, a Shurion there, or we're going to bring Google there, we're going to bring somebody there. If you don't charge us the footprint tax, we're going to build there and we're going to bring jobs in. So they bring all of their people from California here, which is going to move into these locations. And then that's going to create your shift in your voting public.
Wow. And do you think that insurance companies are involved in this? Because I think they have to be. I feel like the way that insurance companies are operating on the appraisals is so similar to the way that the independent or county or parish appraisers are doing. Do you think they're tied into this at all?
I do. We have found some stuff with the insurance companies that is, there's indicators there that they are involved, and that's pretty much all I can say about that right now.
Yeah. It's
You,
crazy.
and you're saying, Sean, that you had evidence of all of these things when you were raided, when your
Yes, sir.
police department and your home was raided, and all of the information was seized by the TBI.
Correct.
And were they already in possession of all of this?
What do you mean by in
I
possession?
mean, was the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, did they already have the information or they were and they were simply raiding the police department, raiding your home in order to make sure that, you know, nobody else had it besides
That's
you
what
and them, or were
that's what
you?
we believe is that they came in to take the information so that we could no longer disseminate the information to the FBI and to the DOJ. But we had already met with the FBI.
Had you provided all of this information or all this evidence to the FBI?
A lot of the information we have, and we are also talking with members of different U.S. attorneys' offices, the DOJ, and other federal law enforcement agencies. And we do have open cases. That's why some of the stuff I won't be able to talk about.
Yeah. So you're saying there's an ongoing federal investigation into all these things now?
Multiple
Okay.
in multiple states.
You know, Sean, this story's been staying on my mind since you held that press conference last year in Las Vegas, and it's just been percolating in the back of my mind. I've been wondering what's been going on with it. And this year, I think when was it? It was January, probably right after after Trump was inaugurated, maybe somewhere in there, Letitia James started getting investigated for mortgage fraud, and that perked up my ear because I was like, mortgage fraud. Uh-huh. And then it's been about a month or 2 months ago, Adam Schiff's name came into the
Yes.
picture as well for mortgage fraud. Do you
Yes.
think we're going to see some of these big name people swept into some of this?
Absolutely, we are. I knew all about the Letitia James more.
Uh-oh.
Um, we've passed that information on to different U.S. attorney generals. We've been to D.C. numerous times. I knew about the mortgage fraud with Adam Schiff. I had dinner with the young woman who found that. She was running for Congress in California.
Hmm.
And so, yes, a lot of that information we already had, and I believe that's going to be one of the blueprints that's going to be utilized to take down this entire infrastructure, because we have to attack the money, because the money is what's going into paying people like the TBI, is going into paying for these politicians that are forcing things to happen, like the TBI doing these investigations inappropriately. It's the money that is funding these district attorneys, these George Soros district attorneys like Ray Whitley, and as well as the judges. You know, the judge that signed the search warrant on us should have never signed the search warrant, because he was one of the people being investigated for the magic mortgages.
Yeah.
Would you go back and tell us about smurfing? I believe James O'Keefe kind of uncovered this with Act Blue,
Yes.
but just if people aren't familiar with it.
So one of the things that we found is in I think it was June of 23, is what we found is we have a local guy by the name of Justin Jones, who's also a social justice warrior. He's a state representative. And Justin, um, part of the Tennessee Three, had received donations through his online platform, which was Act Blue, through from 422 people, different amounts of money. Well, on the exact same day, uh, Maxwell Frost, who is a social justice warrior out of Florida, who's a congressman, received the exact 422 donations from the exact same people for the exact same amount on the exact same day that Justin Jones received his. So what that is that shows that this information is being cataloged and then recycled, and the money is going into other politicians' platforms or into their candidacy. So if the money did go to Justin Jones, because that's where the people had sent it to, where did the money from the other 422 donations come from? I don't know, possibly magic mortgages,
Or drugs?
Or
drugs.
possibly drugs. Uh, Sean, and to be clear here, there's no authority in Tennessee, not the local DA, not the state attorney general, and not the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation that is looking into any of this on a state level.
No, as a matter of fact, the state attorney general and deputy attorney general came to my home for about a 3.5 hour briefing, and they're not looking at any of this. As a matter of fact, we believe they're part of the problem. And
Hmm.
it's funny because the deputy state attorney general, Lacey Mays, is the was brought in by Skermetti, our state attorney general, who, everybody's like, oh, he's doing so great. He's going against Facebook and this and that. When in reality, he helped pave the way for Facebook to come to Tennessee, to our county, actually. And they broke a land trust illegally to get them here. But they came to my home. They looked at the presentation. He said, I have no authority to do anything. And his deputy, Lacey Mays, he had brought in from Texas, and she was one of the ones that went to the FBI against Ken Paxton and was testifying and giving information against Ken Paxton that got him censured. And we brought her here to Tennessee.
Wow.
Are you expecting any Tennessee officials to be indicted at some point federally?
I am. I absolutely, we are 100%.
Well, I hope it goes all the way back to at least Al Gore.
And this is
If the
going to
climate
be
hasn't, if the climate has not destroyed us all by then.
That's true.
right. This is going to be a RICO case, which means it can go back, it can reach back as long as we can show the continuity over the time frame. And it's going to get very interesting. I think we're going to uncover a lot of information on everything from the local level all the way up to the federal level, and especially in the state level. We have people here locally that have contracts in the Ukraine for military contracts that are, it's like, how did this person get a contract to go into the Ukraine? And then they're tied into nonprofits with the Ukraine. And of course, what is the Ukraine? The Ukraine is one of the main places that they've been laundering money and funneling it back here to the United States to the politicians. So, we have a criminal syndicate that's operating not just in Tennessee. This syndicate is operating across our country up into Canada, and Canada is in assisting with their banks. I mean, like I said, Toronto Dominion. And then you have Royal Bank of Canada. And, it's funny because Royal Bank of Canada, we were speaking out against, and Royal Bank of Canada is one of the owners along with Toronto Dominion. They started a company called SimCorp, which is an electronic payment hub. Could that be a place that they're commingling the funds? But we found out that Royal Bank of Canada is also the money provider for News Channel 5 eScripts on all of the local for their money. They are the credit provider for News Channel 5, which is the news station that attacked us.
And Sean, Toronto Dominion, that's TD Bank? Is
Yes.
that what their trade name is?
Yes.
Wow. Well, that's very, very fascinating. It took me a little while to connect that, but I realized I've seen that all up and down the East Coast, TD Bank.
Right.
This is unbelievable. This is extraordinary. Let me make sure that I understand one thing here clearly, Sean. We think we know why the TBI raided the police station and your home, but what was the explanation that they gave the police department and gave you for why they raided the department and raided your home?
It's like I said earlier. They said that I had committed official misconduct and altered a government document.
Were you arrested for that?
No, I was not.
Have you been? So obviously you haven't been prosecuted for any criminal wrongdoing?
No.
Well, in that situation, did you consider suing them for violation of your civil rights?
We're in the process of putting that stuff together. I think there's a suit that's dropped already. And then the other two gentlemen that are suing were the two detectives that were involved. And they actually started a civil RICO case against the people that are involved in this. And it will be moving into the TBI as well as the news media with Phil Williams and his station and all of that, as will mine and the Chiefs. And it will all end up coming under civil RICO, but then it's also going to probably have a criminal side to it as well for deprivation of rights. And we have found out since that the TBI and the Phil Williams have been colluding, and we've got documentation and evidence of that. So basically, Phil Williams is the propagandist, and he's trying to orchestrate how the story should unfold so that his people don't get caught in this net that we have casted.
Right.
And we have documentation that these two, the TBI members of the TBI and Phil Williams have been in contact with one another and discussed this. We have evidence of a lot of this that will come out in the civil case, and then we're going to be referring it to the DOJ for civil rights violations as well.
So you're intending to bring a civil rights action on your own behalf against TBI?
Yes, absolutely for the civil side, and then we are going to the main justice, and we're going to be requesting a criminal investigation into the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, into the city commissioners that assisted them, as well as into Phil Williams and this political PAC. Because what we found is that the TBI served their search warrant within 60 days of election, and could that have possibly violated the Hatch Act?
Right.
Mm.
But you said there's currently some version of a federal investigation that's pending right now, right?
There is, yes, we have multiple federal investigations that have been opened on the stuff that we have located. Yes, sir.
Sean, as I was thinking about, the scope and the breadth of this conspiracy, of all this corruption, there were a couple other places that I think funny money must come in. One of them is these publishing houses. You see these massive book deals with national politicians. Kamala and her new book that nobody believes she wrote, and absolutely nobody is going to read her book, 107 Days. She got a $20 million advance for that book.
Yeah.
Now, no one even believes she can read and write. So how is it that she is just so spectacular that people want to pay her $20 million? And furthermore, no one's reading any of these books. So where's the money for them to advance her $20 million even coming from?
Well, that's a really good question, because Phil Williams got one of those magic book deals as well during all of this, that where he was attacking us, and we're like, who wants to hear about Phil Williams? He's nothing. He is literally a guy who is basically trying to turn a cartoon reel out of his mind, and it makes you wonder if he's got some type of mental issue. And so, where's the money coming from? That's a good question. And I think that warrants further investigation. I think that we have enough indicators here that needs to be looked at in totality, and the money needs to be followed to see where the money was generated from. Did it come from overseas accounts? Did it come from one of these banks that has been moving cartel money and the CCP money? Where exactly? What ties do these book publishers have to Act Blue, Toronto Dominion, Royal Bank of Canada, Democracy Forward? Where are they connected? They will be connected. I will promise you that, because you have to remember they've started this Act Blue in 2005, and it took them a long time to do that. So I think you could probably say that they started building their infrastructure probably right around 2000. So when you look at this in totality, it's going to encompass thousands of people, probably thousands of businesses, and some people may not even realize what they're a part of, because they keep stuff so compartmentalized.
Yeah.
And when you compartmentalize stuff, it makes it so that you don't really know what's going on in totality.
Yeah.
I think another part of Kamala's campaign that probably translated or exposed some of this stuff is the way that she had such huge payments go to people like Beyonce and Oprah. Well, we know that stuff has probably been happening all along, because those types of celebrities have been involved in politics for some weird reason for a long time.
Right.
But that money has to all be coming from similar sources.
Sure.
That's exactly right. And you don't raise that kind of money through $5 and $10 and $20 donations. Okay, so we know that the money has to be coming from somewhere. So that's where we have to do our due diligence to figure out where exactly that money is coming from, because once you identify that money flow and where it's coming from, you're going to be able to disrupt that money flow and dismantle their entire organization. Because if these people don't have the money to fund these Antifa events that were happening, to fund the stuff that's happening out there in Los Angeles where they're doxing ICE agents, if they don't have that money, then their organization is going to fall apart. And guess what? Now we're going to have people that we can pull in, that we can start interviewing and they're going to give up the information on the money flow, how it's flowing, where it's coming from, and all of that, which is going to allow their entire infrastructure to fall.
Yeah.
Sean, you're retired.
I am.
Were you forced out at the Millersville Police Department?
I was pretty much forced out. Yeah. I really didn't have much of a choice. They, they brought in the three new people, and it was pretty much said, you know, you don't need to be here, along with the chief and the one detective. And so, you know, that's going to go into the lawsuit as well. I know it's in the civil RICO case that's been
Yeah.
filed.
So the chief is out as well.
He is.
Okay. And are you in regular or frequent contact with federal investigators about all this?
Yeah, I've actually talked to three different U.S. attorneys in the last 24 hours.
That's wonderful news.
So this is pretty serious stuff. So at this point, what is your involvement? Obviously, you're a witness to all of these things. Are you acting in any kind of investigative capacity now?
Right
Obviously
now,
not official. Yeah.
I'm a federal whistleblower. I have been a federal whistleblower. The TBI was included in my federal whistleblower document. So, you know, a lot of this appears to be retaliation against me for that. Um, so, right now, I am providing information for them to continue the cases. And it's so vast that you know, how do you eat an elephant? You know, it's one bite at a time.
That's
So
it.
basically, I'm providing each of these U.S. attorneys and their investigators one bite at a time for them to go through it and investigate it to a totality, to an outcome. And then you move on to your next piece of the puzzle because it's going to take a while to put all of these pieces together, especially in the different states.
Sure. And you know, it sounds like just a complex web here that we're dealing with, Sean, that
Yes.
you know, you blew the lid on it. You know, there's no question. Are you concerned at all for your safety?
Uh, we are currently we are in a location that's mobile. We haven't been able to stay in our home state of Tennessee. I've had my home shot up. That's one of the reasons we had to move, and of course, TBI coming in, and you know, because that puts my neighbors at risk.
No
And we
kidding.
absolutely adored our neighbors. We loved our neighbors. When our home was shot up, several of the other homes were hit as well, and they have children. You know, how can I, you know, put somebody at risk because I'm the one who's trying to blow the whistle on this stuff. So right now we are mobile and traveling. It's the only way to really keep safe and stay safe. The U.S. attorney I was on the phone with yesterday is very concerned about my safety and my family's safety. So yeah, it is a major concern.
Wow.
Needless to say, you're not disclosing your whereabouts publicly.
No.
Yeah.
Well, but we pray, Sean, for your angelic protection and that every scrap of evidence you have, every memory of evidence you have will be relayed to the right people so that this can get
Thank you.
rolled up properly and that you can at some point live a quiet and peaceful life, unbothered by these crooks who are just trying to cover their tracks. And that's the way they've operated for decades. You know, we've seen these little things pop up in different states here and there, but it makes so much sense that it would all be somehow tied together. And it's amazing to me. A lot of this has to tie back. I mean, I know some of it ties back further before Obama for sure, but
Hmm.
his whole community organizing mantra, I think through his presidency, put a big push on that move toward NGO development, toward activism, toward, you know, uh, kind of that Antifa level civil disobedience that and the strife and division that was being sowed in the country throughout his presidency. I bet
Right.
you're going to see a lot, and I'm sure you can only talk about it so much, but a lot has to tie back to that. Of course, I don't think the Clintons are going to come out of this unscathed either.
I don't feel like the Clintons are going to come out unscathed by any stretch of the imagination. But you have to look at who propped the Clintons up. And when you look at who propped the Clintons up, it was George Bush Sr. George Bush Sr., going back to the Iran Contra and Mena, Arkansas, and all of that, that's where the Clintons were propped up. And that's where your promises were made. And we have to remember that, this is involving, of course, what we call, everybody calls it the deep state, the cabal. But basically, what this is this is your corrupt people on both sides of the aisle coming together and creating their own little party. Okay, because the Democratic Party has been infiltrated as well as the Republican Party has
Yep.
been infiltrated. And people need to understand nowadays you can't just vote a D or vote an R. You actually have to look at the candidate and see what they're actually about. And if they're running for office, multiple times, how did they vote previously? And you've got to start looking at that because both parties have been infiltrated. And then you have these corrupt individuals at your local, state, and national level that are part of this uniparty, this corrupt uniparty that we are dealing with.
Oh, what incestuous web we weave. No
Yes.
question about that. Well, Sean, thank you for joining us and sharing this information with us on the State of Freedom today. And thank you for your courage. I know you'll be back on Danielle's For the Love of Freedom tomorrow, and y'all are going to delve even more into this. But thank you for joining us on the State of Freedom today, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. And, the only thing I can say is for the listeners and viewers, dig. God has given you that ability for a reason. And you can't miss that opportunity because he needs you to do this. And this is the beginning of your education here. Dig into this in your local area and bring it forward because it's the only way that we're going to be able to keep this beautiful republic.
Yeah.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Well
Thank you,
said.
Sean. I'm gonna put you backstage if you would mind hanging on until your track is uploaded. And we will see you tomorrow, sir. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Well, Chris,
And
let's do a quick ad break if you don't mind, and then
yeah,
we will
a
be right
word from
back.
our sponsors. And then I just am blown away by him, but it's just wow.
Yeah, amazing. Oh no, sorry, technical difficulties. Here we go. If you're looking to invest in physical precious metals or convert your 401k to a precious metals backed IRA, please consider making your investment with our trusted partner, Metal Stacks. Their prices regularly beat the big sites and they have no credit card fees or minimums. Shipping is free for orders over $500. Just visit metalstacks.com/dwalker or get there from our website, freedomstate.us. If you're interested in the IRA conversion, drop me a message at Danielle@freedomstate.us and I can get you connected with their white glove service.
I think one of the things, Danielle, that is very significant about this is the fact that there is an ongoing federal investigation into all of this pending now, and also
Multiple.
multiple, and that Sean intends to file a federal civil rights action, which, if everything he's saying is true, he has an absolutely slam dunk case. There's no question about that. I think it's unbelievable that he's been driven out of his state. He can't even disclose his whereabouts now. It's like he's under some version of the whistleblower protection program or witness protection program where you can't even know where he is. Imagine the toll that this has all taken on his family.
Yeah. Well, and we were speaking about this before the show, Chris, but there's a number of people that we've had on this show who have found themselves in similar circumstances, not because they wanted to, right? But because of the information that they stumbled across and the fact that they were patriotic and they're Christians and they felt the need to do the right thing. You think about Joe Altman, his family came under attack after the 2020 election and his whistleblowing on that. Tina Peters, similarly, she had to be on the move for a while before she was ultimately wrongfully sentenced, and hopefully she'll be getting out of jail soon. I think the countdown is on. They believed that she would have she would get out within 60 days. So definitely say a prayer for these people, because they have been so courageous. They have stuck their neck out for us, for our republic, for our children and our children's children, and they deserve our prayers. They deserve our support financially if we can give it, and they deserve us to do our part. So they're not hanging out there on their own. And Chris,
Yeah.
I wanted to also mention, as he was talking about the fact that the feds are involved in this, you cannot think about this and not think about what John Solomon's been reporting on, what Kash Patel has been talking about, this Grand RICO case that they have started working on related to Crossfire Hurricane. You have to wonder at some point where this is all going to cross paths. I think it has to, because where did the money come from to pay for the Steele dossier? Well, it came from the Clintons, but where did it come from? So I think that a lot of roads are going to lead to the center of that web. And what looks like 4, 5, 6, 10 RICO cases right now might end up being one giant one in the grand scheme of things. I'm sure it's a lot easier to prosecute as several cases, just because of the number of people involved. But
Sure.
your law mind can tell me different.
No question about it. And I think that to the extent that there's one broad pattern of corruption, I think it could be one large federal action. But I pray for Sean's safety, as you said, Danielle. I can guarantee you, again, if even a fraction of what he's saying is true, I guarantee you that people want to take him out. There's no question about that. That is probably being contemplated as we speak. But we're going to continue to follow this and see where this investigation goes. But if there's ever a Justice Department that I think can get to the bottom of all of this corruption and make sure that real accountability occurs, I think it's the Trump DOJ. And I still have faith in it, and I still believe that they are intending to clean it out. And nothing has occurred to me, has occurred that suggests to me that President Trump is not deadly serious about doing this.
Yeah. And look, what incentive does Sean have for not saying the truth? He has a lot more incentive to lie than he does to say the truth. Otherwise, his house wouldn't have gotten shot up. It looks like for decades, people in Tennessee in law enforcement, and in the court systems have been paid to look the other way. So it's actually causes you to prosper if you lie in these instances, and we see it all around us, don't we?
Well, imagine living in a state, Danielle, where the local district attorney, the state, the U.S., the state attorney general, and the most prominent investigative bureau in your state are all basically on the take, because none of them are corrupt or investigating real corruption, because they're probably all somehow connected to it. I mean, that is extraordinary. I mean, I know we have corruption in Louisiana, but I'm not sure that it's that systemic.
I think it's this systemic throughout the entire country, Chris. 100%. I do. I'm
Wow.
not saying those particular officials or those particular organizations in Louisiana are the same ones that are corrupt, but there's absolutely no one who can tell me that at the parish level there's not insidious corruption. At the state level, of course there is. Of course there is. We see it.
Sure.
We see it's playing out in the way that the legislators don't vote the way that the people want. The executive branch doesn't listen to the people. They have that position for a reason, and it's not for us.
That's correct. And that's the reason why we're continuing to level this playing field and continue to expose the corruption and the fraud relentlessly. And I couldn't be happier to be in this position and working with you to do just that, Danielle. I want to mention one thing before we go. Dr. Evelyn Griffin, I know we mentioned this on our last show, All Things Wellness event, August 23rd at Revolution Square. 9500 Blackwater Road in Baker. Registration is $10, and it's from 9 to 3. Danielle, I went last year to All Things Wellness, and I was blown away by all of the different things that I learned. If you really want to get healthy and you want to get away from all the chemicals, then and learn really about holistic health is what it's all about, then you should go and spend the day there. You couldn't make a better use of your time.
And
And then,
I
yeah,
put the
go ahead.
link to that. Sorry, Chris. I put the link to
No,
that in the chat, and I'll put it in the show notes as well.
awesome. And then, of course, as I mentioned to Sean, Danielle, you'll be back on for the Love of Freedom tomorrow uh, with him again to discuss this, all the things he's talked to us about today even more deeply, and also go into some of his personal background and
Yeah.
his personal story, which I'm sure is extremely interesting. And then lastly, on Thursday, and I'm so much looking forward to this, Danielle. Thursday, you and I are going to take a deep dive into the LeCag legislative scorecard, more specifically than we've been able to do to date. And so all of these Republicans, good, bad, and ugly, we're going to be talking about how you voted and how you ended up on the LeCag scorecard. So
Well,
I'm excited.
And Chris, on that point, we've said before, there are several Democrats who eked out Republicans who got better scores than Republicans because of standing up for the truth and standing up for what's right. So we're, just like Sean said, there's not two parties anymore. There's not two parties. You have to vote for people who are honest. You have to vote for people with integrity. A badge that says Republican or Democrat means absolutely nothing to me. And we're going to get into that definitely on Thursday. I'm fired up. I found out yesterday, Chris, I sent you and Katie a very incensed text message letting you know that somehow there is now a new tax, I'm guessing it's a state tax. I'll need to dig into it, on shipping. So now you get to pay sales tax, you get to pay shipping, and you get to pay a tax on your shipping. If that's not corruption and an absolute slap in the face to the Louisiana taxpayer, I do not know what is. And that's just one of the things we're going to be uncovering on Thursday. I will be spicy as all get out. And just a reminder to those of you who may be interested in advertising, if you are interested, please reach out to me. We have price points to fit every budget, and we'd love to also advertise your events as well. So keep us in mind. You can email me at danielle@freedomstate.us.
And we will promote your product and we will get the word out for you. Absolutely. Danielle, I know I don't say this enough, but I'm absolutely continue to be thrilled by the progress that we're making on the State of Freedom, the way we're growing, the way we're reaching people. I go places all the time and people will say, I listened to your podcast, I listened to State of Freedom, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm so glad we found you. So we are the #1 conservative political podcast in Louisiana for a reason. And I think it's 99% because of you, but I get 1% credit for it. I get 1%.
You get more than 1% credit, Chris. You are awesome.
1%. I'm going to hold to that. Well, God bless everybody. God bless you, Danielle, and we shall reconvene very soon.
Sounds good. See you on Thursday, Chris. Oops. Sorry, folks. I'm figuring it out. Meet the world's first living, full-spectrum, certified organic CBDA hemp extract. Ness's hemp oil was extracted from seed to bottle without chemicals, solvents, or heavy metals, and it surpasses world-class standards for purity. This pure and powerful CBDA has been proven to reduce aches and pains, ease mental tension, and promote better sleep. To get yours today, visit the Shop Our Partners page at freedomstate.us. Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lecag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.